I want to share with you the story of how I bought my dream Hermes bag to then realize that I actually hated it. Hate's probably a bit of a strong word. This is the bag in question. This is the Hermes Gypsy Air bag. I'll probably have the details on screen somewhere for any real handbag connoisseurs out there, but this bag cost me close to $13,000.
For a bag?
And I bought it in June of 2024. I never shared this story with you, but I thought this could be an interesting lesson because for a long time, this was almost like a dream purchase that I hoped to be able to own someday. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't the same all-consuming type of obsession that shopping used to be for me, but I essentially kind of effed up and I bought this bag, and in hindsight I wish I hadn't. And I want to go over the reasons that led me here in hopes that maybe this video will help you from either making a really bad financial decision or even just things to consider before buying something that you either maybe can't afford or might not be the best idea, no matter how big or small the purchase is. So a lot of us know that Hermes deliberately create scarcity. You know, they do it in a variety of ways through limited availability, wait lists, the game. So when I found a loophole of being able to buy the things that I wanted on the Hermes website without playing any kinds of games, or at least I thought I was avoiding all the games, but we will get into the games that I was engaging in without even realizing. I was genuinely thrilled to be able to go ahead and purchase the things that I wanted to purchase from Hermes online because, as you know, I live in a city that doesn't have Hermes. There was a number of things that I wanted. I've shared with you in videos before. I think I shared with you I got a little classic little Kelly wallet thing. I got a mini Evelyn. I got a variety of Hermes Chypre sandals. Part of the reason I have quite a number of those is because I have really large feet. And yeah, they're girthy, okay? I got girthy feet. And very few shoes actually fit me comfortably. Those ones do. Anyway, that's besides the point. Back when I was getting, these shoes, they weren't as easy to get on the website. And these are all things that, if you go into an Hermes store and you have a relationship with an SA and you foster that relationship and you spend money on things that you don't really want or need, you can find yourself being offered a classic little wallet for a Kelly one or an Evelyn or a Gypsy Air or even some kind of hard to get Chypres. I didn't want to play that, partly because I couldn't, because I don't live in a state that has Hermes, but also just because I'm very much against that whole kind of thing. I don't like it. So when I found this loophole, I was genuinely thrilled. And if I'm being honest, I've told you before that I don't really wear my Birkin. Throughout my years of wearing handbags, I have come to realize that I'm a crossbody girl through and through. It's very rare that I don't wear a crossbody. So I decided a while ago that the Gypsy Air was the bag for me. It was everything I wanted in a bag. I wanted the Gypsy Air to be what the Birkin is for so many people. I wanted to be able to have a bag that I would wear every day, that I genuinely loved. Turns out, it's actually the mini Evelyn for me, and it's a variety of other bags that I wear and love. But anyway, as you may have heard a few minutes ago, I mentioned kind of the idea of buying the things that I wanted online was a way for me to avoid the game. But then in hindsight, what I've realized upon reflecting is that the game somewhat exists on the website too, but maybe just not in the same way and maybe not in the same degree. So if you're someone who, like me, maybe there's specific items that maybe you want to own from Hermes or you'd eventually want to own if you like those things and you think that you don't want to play those games in store, the online website is a good route, but I just want to kind of give you a bit of a heads up about some of the games that you may find yourself playing because items drop so quickly on the website. And there were a number of times that I would order something and I'd get to the checkout and it would say that the order was then confirmed, to then an hour or maybe a day later get an email saying that my order had been cancelled. Explain to me it's because they have a limited drop, it's a glitch in their system, the order gets confirmed, but then they obviously don't have the stock to fulfill it for enough people because so many people are on the website at the same time trying to buy the same thing. This is very much interesting from a psychological standpoint. It is in a way like gambling. And I talked about this in my Labubu video, which I will have linked if you want to check that one out, because I genuinely loved that video. I was super proud of it. And I loved the conclusions that I came to and that I shared with you in that video. But this is very much an element, whether it be intentional or unintentional. They say it's a glitch on their system, but from a marketing standpoint and it creates that scarcity, it also feels like gambling. when you check out and when you get it, it's like that excitement of, oh, but like, do I actually have it? Or is this going to be the one? That's also an added feeling and added emotions that go along with it. And it's like that, oh, is this the time? Is this the one? Like, is this the one that's going to be approved? Or is this one going to get cancelled? You know, when it gets cancelled, it just almost pushes you even more to like be determined to get the next one and hope for the next one. So that's also all these added emotions on top of the prestige of the brand and, you know, the manufactured scarcity that it also creates. You know, it definitely is this very much emotional narrative, and it's a combination of factors, and it's this connected with this build up and, you know, the emotional investment in the thing itself. It's a fascinating look at psychology, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't fall for it, because I did. We want what we can't have more intensely, and it's that dopamine hit of finally getting it that I was personally searching for when I thought that I wasn't partaking in the traditional Hermes game, even though it wasn't maybe necessarily the traditional Hermes game. But I wanted to kind of point this out for anybody, whether you are someone who is interested in Hermes or whether you just find this fascinating from a marketing standpoint. There are games that exist even if you decide or you try not to go that particular route. If you go the route of the website game, it's a game in itself, I've come to realize. I wanted to kind of run through with you what I think were the biggest reasons, other than the idea being put into my head after I realized the Birkin wasn't for me. I came to realize that there was a number of things that I used to, going back probably a year or so ago now, when I went through my whole experience of realizing that I was engaging in unhealthy shopping habits, spending too much money, spending recklessly, in some cases spending beyond my means, and spending what was sensible. I talked about that a lot. And as you may have known, and I always have them linked in my bio, but I have two specific things linked in my bio at all time that are free. A Venn diagram and a list of questions is one of them. And the second one is a journal. And I used these when I was kind of trying to break that habit and come to terms with trying to change my shopping habits. I recognized that there is something that I didn't necessarily account for. There was actually a situation that took place that was the reason I ended up pulling the trigger on this particular bag. And it's something that I think a lot of people who potentially have a unhealthy relationship with shopping, or have had one, or are still kind of vulnerable to that. If you have had it in the past, there may be potential triggers that you are still vulnerable to making certain decisions, or still kind of falling into that trap. Sometimes we don't know what they are until they happen, and this was one of those for me. I didn't tell you this, but in 2024, in July/August, I was supposed to take a trip. So this trip was a month-long trip in Europe, and it was really exciting. I had like everything booked. I was really excited. As a lot of you may know, I'm kind of on this kick of experiences over things. If you saw my Bali video, though, you know I'm terrified of travel. And that's even if I do it with people. So this was supposed to be a trip I was taking with people, and long story short, I won't get into the semantics, but the trip ended up being cancelled. The trip was somewhat cancelled last minute. It fell through. We could no longer go on this trip. And so, you know, all of the time, the money, all of that, I mean, luckily we did actually a lot of the time spend a bit more on various things, and we managed to get a lot of the money back for the trip. It's more the emotional state I was in, because that trip was something I was genuinely looking forward to. I was so excited, you know, I would have a bad day, or I would be going through some things, and I just keep remembering, no, like I have this trip to look forward to, or sometimes it's good to have something to look forward to. And that was it for me. And that trip, because it was so suddenly cancelled, I kind of had this mindset of, well, partly because it's back then and even still now, I'm still quite scared to travel alone. I was not willing to take this trip on my own. It wasn't really a trip I wanted to take on my own. You know, the cruise, like the tours I had booked, it was very much like a group activity, and I didn't really want to partake in that on my own. And I wanted to wait for the people that I was supposed to be doing it with to eventually do it, you know, whether that be in a year or 2 years' time. I was willing to wait. And I think looking back, I completely disregarded all of my own advice and everything that I had shared in the past, that journal with that Venn diagram, with those questions that I had included and I have included in my bio. I had completely disregarded all that. If I had taken a moment to really think clearly, if I had worked through the journal or the questions or sat with myself long enough, I maybe mightn't have made this impulsive decision and maybe wouldn't have made this mistake at all. You know, we all F up, and progress doesn't always look like this. It's more like up and down, and it's back and it's forward and it's sideways, and it's like, it's never linear. I bought the bag because my mindset at the time was, I was so disappointed the trip wasn't happening anymore. I felt as if that was the thing I was looking forward to, and I'd spent so long getting excited for it, planning it, looking at outfits, thinking about what I was going to pack, what I was going to wear. And I felt as if I had nothing else to look forward to, and I had nothing else planned. And my toxic mindset at the time was, I'm not going anywhere for the foreseeable future, because at the time I wasn't. I had no other trips in the pipeline, nothing else planned, not even like a concept, or not even nothing booked, but nothing even like, oh, we should go here, or we should go there, or like nothing planned with anybody. And I think that led me to then feel like, well, I have this money that's now refunded to me, that's sitting in my bank account. I can't have the memory and the adventure that I wanted. I don't have anywhere else I'm going, or I don't really feel brave enough to go anywhere else. So I resorted back to a mentality that was, if I can't do the things I want to do, or if I'm not brave enough to do the things I want to do on my own, I'm just gonna buy a bag and buy something to enjoy for the rest of this year and beyond, because I can't do the thing I wanted to do, which is not, truthfully, my proudest moment, and not something that I'm obviously championing. Like, I'm not I'm not proud of that, but I'm sharing this with you because it is a peek into the mind of someone who, yes, has a past with unhealthy spending, impulsive spending. And it also shows and highlights that, I think, without saying too negative, if this is something, or if you've struggled with anything in the past, there is potentially always going to be, there may always be a trigger. And the more that you can learn about your triggers or things that may slip you up, the better prepared you can be for them. And for me, this was a moment, and looking back, it's a learning moment. I now realize that if something doesn't go to plan, I already struggle with things like that from a mental standpoint. I already struggle like having a plan in place, and then the plans fall through. It's something that takes me a little bit of time to like get with the program and be okay with the program. So of course, on a bigger scale of like this giant trip I was super excited about, of course I was going to struggle with coming to terms with that being cancelled and no longer happening, and mentally being able to process and deal with that and know what the sensible and the right thing to do with, one, that amount of money and my time was, instead of just jumping to that bag. I was telling myself in the beginning that I wasn't wearing this bag because it was winter and it wasn't summer. Because in my head, I'm like, well, this is like, yes, it's a neutral color, but it is like a little bit more of a summer color to me. So that was what I was telling myself in my head, because like I said, I bought it in June. And this is the other issue. I feel like it was like a combination of factors. It was the trip getting canceled, but it was also when this bag went online, I think it was like around the June 22nd or something, 23rd. Going back to what I said before about how it's a bit of this game of orders getting cancelled, orders getting approved and then cancelled. And it took a day or two to get a confirmation email that the order was actually coming to me. And I got that email on, I think, about the 24th or 25th of June. So my birthday is the 29th of June. So again, in my head, coupled with the trip not going to plan and being cancelled, and knowing it was my birthday coming up, that was another factor where I was like, oh, I have all this money now sitting in my account of things that have been refunded, and the trip's not going ahead, and that's what I was looking forward to, and it's my birthday, and what else am I going to do? So it was like this whole kind of perfect storm that led me to make this very reckless decision. I wanted to kind of break down with you the emotional needs and like where I was at, what I was trying to meet, and what I was essentially trying to compensate for. One, it was my birthday coming up. I tend to maybe buy myself something special or treat myself in some way, not really that extravagantly anymore, if at all. But that coupled with, like I said, the trip getting cancelled and really having that thing that I was looking forward to being cancelled, that was like a perfect storm for me, and something that I didn't consider about being a possible trigger for me to, one, spend recklessly and make poor financial choices. And this experience overall still taught me that I am still vulnerable to fucking up. Maybe less after that experience, but it taught me that I need to put safeguards in place to ensure that I don't do something like that again. And to be honest, I haven't, which has been really great. I bought that one bag that I took to Bali, if you saw that video. June 2024, this was the last purchase I made that was one, incredibly extravagant, and two, a poor decision on my part. And I wanted to share with you the factors that went into this decision and how I landed here, in case you, one, have downloaded the PDFs that I've shared below, but also are struggling with this or think that you're on the other side of it, because I thought I was, until I realized that, again, progress isn't linear and we're all vulnerable to certain triggers or falling back into old patterns if we don't put safeguards in place or are even aware of certain things that could maybe trigger us into an unhealthy place again. This is one thing I forgot to mention, and I think this very much appeals to the allure even more. If I had a chance to try on that bag in store or just anywhere, I probably would have came to the realization that it wasn't for me. The strap doesn't feel good on me, but I've always been really weird like that. And it's just getting worse as I get older. Like, there are certain fabrics on my skin that I just don't like the feeling of it. I just don't like the way it feels on my skin. And that strap is one of them. So I wanted to share that because I do think it still kind of fits into my broader journey of conscious consumption and making more conscious decisions with my spending. I think emotionally I didn't handle the trip being cancelled very well, so then I jumped to buying something I didn't need. I think I was so hyper focused on how much I thought this bag was beautiful, yes, but also the situation that surrounds how this purchase came about was the main focus, and I was looking for any way to kind of self-soothe, and this was it. And it was a perfect storm of the bag showing up on the website, my birthday coming up. It was the perfect storm and I fell right into the trap. I'm open to selling it for the price that I paid, which again, in this current climate and the financial resale market where it is, I'm kind of not thinking that will be super easy. If I can't sell it, I probably will just hold on to it, maybe wear it, maybe just hold on to it for a few more years, and then when the price continues to rise, then at least maybe I'll get back what I paid. It again proves the point that I came on to share when I was going through the real depths of kind of breaking my shopping habits, is this retail therapy myth, you know, the false promise that shopping heals like emotional wounds or even self-soothes. I've spoken about this before because truly, this didn't soothe me. Like, it didn't make me feel better that I wasn't going to Europe in 2024. It didn't make me feel better. I thought it would in my irrational mind at the time, but it didn't make me feel better. It definitely, again, ties into things that I've spoken about before and will probably continue to speak about, is that, you know, buying the life you want is never the answer. Sometimes the harder, but more beneficial way to go is enhancing the life you have. You know, I bought this because I couldn't go on the trip and I just thought, screw it. Like, if I can't do the things I want, if I feel like I can't, I should just buy something to make me feel better. Looking back, if I could do this experience again, I would have invested that money either in the stock market or myself in some way to better myself. Or I would have maybe looked at booking a trip for a future date. I wanted to share that story time with you because as embarrassing as it is, I hoped maybe that it might help you if you are trying to be more financially responsible or just make less impulsive, reckless purchase decisions. Maybe that was a blind spot that you never considered. Maybe there are certain triggers that you hadn't considered. Maybe there are certain blind spots that you had. Maybe this might be one of them and you didn't consider that. Maybe you have a trip coming up. Maybe you too, like me, are trying to more focus on experiences over things or just shifting your priorities. Maybe you have a trip coming up, maybe next year or this year. Maybe this might be something for you to think about. Maybe you have everything booked. No one thinks that their trip isn't going to go ahead, but how would you react? Maybe this will help you react in a better way than me if your trips don't go ahead in the future or something that you're looking forward to doesn't eventuate. I hope you found this story interesting or informative or even just maybe mildly entertaining. I'd like to hear from you if you're someone who's trying to spend more intelligently, more intentionally. Do you still have slip-ups? I'd like to hear from you in the comments down below if you have any recent slip-ups, or what is the most reckless financial decision you've personally made out of emotions. This might be it for me, at least one of my more recent ones for sure, especially after the whole realization of having shopping unhealthy tendencies. That was probably the worst and maybe only slip up. But yeah, I thought I'd share that with you. So thanks for joining me in today's video. I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments down below. I'm going to have a few more links for you there if you want to check those out. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video. And if you have any suggestions of content you'd like to see, video ideas, topics, feel free to share them below. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.